$100 billion is a big number, but right now it's just a number. They don't even know how much these assets are worth. Diane?
All right, Chris, thanks. And joining us now from Washington, 2 minutes. We said we're at the center of all of this decision-making. Congressman Barney Frank, chairman of the House Financial Services Committee, and from Stamford, Connecticut, longtime Republican member of that committee, Congressman Christopher Shays. And we thank you both for being with us. Let's get right to it. I know you worked all weekend. Congressman Frank, I'll start with you. This rush to get this money, is it going to happen by Friday? And how confident are you that it's going to work?
Well, I hope it will happen by Friday, but I have to say, Secretary Paulson, whom I admire and have worked with, is being entirely unreasonable when he's worked on this for some days, sends it to us Saturday morning, and wants it passed by Monday. He says he wants a clean bill to move quickly, but he's engaging in a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think it would be outrageous to say to the taxpayers, we're going to put a lot of your money at risk. We hope to recover most of it, but it's undeniably at risk, to help deal with bad decisions that were made by people in the private sector. Oh, and by the way, the people who made those bad decisions can continue to get very large compensation packages, including these golden parachutes. Well, we are saying we want to limit those as a condition for giving them the aid. If the Secretary would agree to that, we could move quickly. But if he insists that that's somehow a terrible thing, then it slows it down a little bit.
What about that, Congressman Shays? Because the Secretary has said it would take too long to do that, to limit executive pay.
Well, first off, Republicans and Democrats are working together, and that's the good news. The second, though, is that many of us made a vote to go to war that we regret, and I think there are going to be a number of members who say we need enough time, and I'm not talking more than a week, but enough time to debate this. And I think it's going to be important for Barney and others to make sure we structure a time on the House floor that members have this debate. But Barney's been doing a great job, and he's really tried to work with this administration.
Congressman Shays, what about this whole question of Secretary Paulson? You know, Dean Baker, who's co-director of the Center for Economic Policy Research, says the single largest flaw is that it's a $700 billion blank check to a guy who has gotten it wrong every step along the way. Well, does he need oversight? What about this idea of bringing in a Buffett, a Bloomberg to oversee this?
I do think you probably do need an oversight, and that may happen. I think that there's a real question whether $700 billion is going to be enough. I think what Hank tried to do is do this piecemeal, hoping it would work, and that's okay, but it didn't work, and now it has to be comprehensive. But he can't come back a second time. He can't come back and say, we really needed $1 trillion.
And back to what you said earlier, Congressman Frank, you said some of the money you hope to get back. Realistically, do you have any idea how much money may eventually come back on this?
No, the great majority. It's going to clearly, it's not going to cost $700 billion. I don't think it's going to cost. We ought to be able to get at least 80% of it back. I do want to add, Dan, that we are going to have oversight, and that's part of it. We want to do the best job we can. Look, the private sector got us into this mess. The government has to get them out of it. They hate to admit that, but that's what's going on. We do want to do it carefully, and we want to buy these assets and with two things in mind. First of all, to diminish foreclosures. We want to buy strategically so that we'll own some of those mortgages and can reduce foreclosures both as a social and economic matter. Secondly, we are building strong oversight into this. We will have a strong oversight board, and it won't be a once every 6 months report. They'll have to report at least monthly, and it will be an oversight board that will have the power to look into this. And again, I trust Hank Paulson, but I don't trust anybody to have the amount of power he asked for in the bill he sent us. Yes, we need to do it, but we need to do it with a way to reduce foreclosures, control excessive executive compensation, and have decent oversight. Those will take us a few days. I don't think it makes the bill unclean to include those.
Congressman Shays, what about the whole question of foreign companies who have investments in this, in the United States, also being part of this? Foreign companies we're going to bail out?
Well, I mean, foreign companies have helped keep us afloat. I mean, we can't be ignorant to the fact that we have a balance of trade problem. They have our dollars. They can do it, use it in certain ways. They can help us fund our debt, or they're, help invest in our economy, and we want them to invest in our economy. We don't want them to go away.
And Congressman Frank, what about you on that?
Well, I think it should be a basically American orientation. There are some, what we are talking about are entities that are American headquartered, and they are part of the American operation, and they are American affiliates. Purely foreign companies, no. In fact, one of the criticisms I had of AIG, and I think they probably had to do that, was we were asked, according to Secretary Paulson and Chairman Bernanke, to do the AIG $85 billion by a lot of foreign ministers, finance ministers, and central banks. We didn't ask them to put it up. They said, well, this is hurting us. So one way to deal with that is they should be putting up the money. If there are foreign entities that have a major impact on their economies, It's their job. There may be some American entities, American-owned entities, that would have an impact here that may have an operation elsewhere, and that's a very limited exception.
Congressman Shays, final word from you. Are you going to be asking retirees to work longer? Are you going to ask people to just watch their 401ks collapse here? What are you saying to the people out here, your constituents?
What I'm saying to them is this is not a bailout for the companies. It's to make sure that all their investments are secure. But we want to make sure that we don't have, these great golden parachutes and so on. But in the end, we're doing it for our taxpayers. We're not doing it for the company executives or even the stockholders. All
right. Well, we thank you both so much. I know you've got to get right back to work. Good to have you with us this morning, briefing us. And we're going to have more on what this means individually for your home and your bank account. And that's coming up in our next